Sometimes they stay for 2 weeks. Perhaps 1 week is not even in training, but taking advantage. So those are the two areas.
Okay. Now, let's also look at your internal mechanism, your internal management. I've noticed that you're actually a member of the Judiciary Leadership Advisory Council. If you get this position, what kind of linkage would you have between the council and the commission in terms of feedback from the two organs of judiciary, the commission and the council that you sit on?
Yes, I said earlier, Commissioner, that the council needs to be strengthened. As it is, I think we are only 6. I think it needs to be broadened. During Chief Justice Mutunga, I think it was bigger. I know judges who are in it who were not presiding over any level of court. There are magistrates who can bring value to the council, and of course even some judiciary staff. So the first thing is to strengthen the council. And the linkage, because the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice are members of JSC. To me, that would be sufficient linkage with the council.
So if I get it correct, in a month or in a year, how many times do you meet as a council?
It's unfortunate. We don't have a timetable. We meet on need basis. Which is another weakness of the council. There's no structured meeting schedules.
So if someone was to say that is one of the weaknesses that someone can say, yes, from what you have been meeting as a council, not met for a year or for a month, you are the chairperson of the council, you are also the chairman of the commission, doesn't seem to have any kind of communication. Would one belong to say that you need to strengthen your internal mechanism to ensure that you're able to discharge your duties even before you go to external?
Yes, yeah, there's a weakness that because of infrequent meetings and also because of lack of communication on what the council does, that diminishes its importance.
So if you give you this position as a chairperson of the commission, what did you do different?
First, I'll strengthen the commission by expanding it to be representative of the people we serve. It will have a replication of the commission here, the JSC, because we'll also have a secretariat.
Okay.
It will have frequent meetings with the forecast agenda. We will be able to communicate with the people we represent in the council on the decisions of the council. Yeah, that's how I will deal with it differently.
Let's now look at towards the staff, the human resource department. And as you said earlier on, the human resources are a very, very key factor in terms of productivity and efficiency. When you look at the staff, you're talking about almost 5,000 staff, not counting the judicial officers, just the staff alone. What do you identify as their weakness and their strength?
They are all mine.
The staff?
The staff.
Yes.
The staff alone, currently, it's estimated that the staff alone, other than the judges and judicial officers, count for 85% of the population in the judiciary. So a very big number. And they are actually the engine that run this machine. So their role cannot be downplayed. And so for them to be able to support the functions of the judges and the judicial officers, they must be resourced in terms of giving them the proper tools of work. The second thing that is very key also is incentive.
Incentives, yes.
So those two, give them tools of trade, and give them incentive.
I want you to address the issue of performance and the measurement of their performance and how you'll be able to sanction that performance.
Again, I'm not quite sure whether the performance management that is applied to judges and magistrates are also applied to the judiciary staff, but it is necessary that every officer who works in a directorate, I think directorates are evaluated, but if you are to go lower, I don't think there's any mechanism to measure their work, like the court assistants, like the secretaries, yet their work is measurable. You can tell how many judgments a secretary has typed. You can tell how many processes have been served by a process server. So there ought to be a mechanism of measuring their output and also of rewarding those who have met their targets and giving sanctions to those who have not.
Would you consider transfers as part of sanctions?
There were times where any transfer to some of the stations in this country was considered having been sent to Siberia. It was seen as punishment. Hence the need that arose to have a transfer policy. So it is not seen as punishment. For me, transfers has never been, if it is being used as a punishment, it has never been effective. If you are transferring me because I'm hiding files in Nairobi and you transfer me to Bungoma, I'll not have stopped doing that. I'll start, perhaps I even perfect it. So it has never been a way of punishment. I've never viewed it as that.
Honorable Judge, when you take this position as a commission, as a chairperson of the commission, and you introduce a transfer policy as a chairperson of the commission, I want to hear from you very clearly, how would you regard a transfer policy in case you need to make that as a sanction? Do you retain the officers in the same state you are calling Siberia? I want to get it from clear as far as transfer policy you would recommend to the commission.
As I said, if it is 2 years, it is 2 years. Of course, there are exigencies of duty that call for perhaps a shorter time or even a longer time. But those should be exceptions to the general rule. But I repeat, I will not make a transfer as a punishment. That because I think you are not performing, or perhaps you are rude to me as you are Chief Justice, the solution is to take you to Siberia. Okay. There are no Siberias as far as I'm concerned, but places in this country, Kenya.
I talk a little bit about diversity, because it's also very clear in terms of the principles, public principles and the values in the Constitution. And that's the chairperson of the Commission. Diversity, not only in paper, but on the ground and in reality, is very key. If you get this position, what will be your take as far as diversity in terms of our staff, in terms of our officers, in terms of the entire judiciary? Question of diversity.
Diversity is a constitutional imperative. Diversity, I have myself exercised it where I work in my office. If you look at those who work with me, my driver, my secretaries, my assistant, I have embraced diversity in the form of regional balance, in the form of gender. So diversity is key, and whatever we do, we must always bear that in mind.
Okay. The other area I'd like to us to talk about is financial accountability. I know you have been an accounting officer, you you've done public finance, all those issues. In terms of enhancing financial accountability in the commission, in judiciary per se, what kind of mechanisms are you going to put in place to ensure that judiciary remains accountable?
I think with the introduction of JFMIS, with the advent of the judiciary fund, there should be a very smooth mechanism for accountability. But as it is, our local IFMIS and our directorate that deals with audit, and there's a directorate audit direct to this commission, risk and audit management directorate. Those put together and resourcing them would be key to meeting the optimal level of accountability.
Our judiciary fund is not yet in place in terms of funding. It is there in law, it is in the constitution. In terms of the regulations, as we sit here this afternoon, the fund doesn't have any money. Now, if you get this position, what will you do to ensure, or what kind of an engagement will you get into to ensure that the fund is properly sourced? Two things that you do to ensure that the fund is properly sourced.
If you read the report of the task force that I was privileged to chair, one of the things that was identified as a mechanism of giving the judiciary financial independence was this fund, which would ring fence the monies allocated to us. And I've been following keenly when the law was passed. Then there was pull and push regarding the regulation. I even attended one of the meetings with the delegated legislation committee. I've been very, very keen. And I'm aware that where it has reached is just a question of opening an account. Again, there has been a stalemate regarding some interpretation of two statutes. And looking at the stalemate, the solution, if you honor me, the solution from what I hear has brought us to a standstill is an issue of consultation. That for you to open this account, yes, the chief registrar is the person to open the account. For you to open the account, you must consult with the National Treasury and with the Controller of Budget. And that's where I will start.
So you as the chairperson of the commission, next month, how will you unlock this stalemate?
Yes, I'll call the two. The Controller of Budget, actually three. The CS Treasury,
CS?
The National Treasury, plus perhaps his PS. I think I've said Controller of Budget, and the Governor of Central Bank. So on a round table, we agree, because my focus will be in another 2 to 3 weeks. It's just opening an account. Unless I'm being simplistic about the problem, but that's how I see it.
Okay, the account is opened. Let's go to money.
Oh, money.
Get the money now in that account.
Oh, yeah, money. I'm glad to hear that the account has been opened.
No, the account is not open. I'm saying you have opened the account.
Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, okay. Right, we have cleared the first hurdle, now the money. I said at the beginning that the money has grown very impressively.
Yes.
From 800 million to, I think, currently 17 billion. is to have, again, an understanding. The way money is disbursed, generally, even currently, does not give the judiciary sufficient time to be able to meet its obligations. So again, we will agree on how this money is going to be disbursed to the account or appropriated to the account. We can agree, we can have not quarterly, but after every half.
Honorable Judge, I want you to share with the Commission how you'll be able to get that disbursement to the account. Which areas? Who are the people who are going to give you that? Whom are you consulting?
Oh, okay. According to the Constitution, the money is appropriated to the judiciary by Parliament.
Parliament, specific?
National Assembly.
National Assembly. Which organs are you going to engage in National Assembly?
There's a Budget Committee.
Budget Committee.
The Budget and Appropriations Committee. We also have the Finance Committee. I think those are the main ones. Of course, the overarching one is the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee.
Yeah, that is the Oversighting Committee for Judiciary. Very good. Before we leave that aspect, and this is a hypothetical question, you are at liberty to answer it. In the event, for instance, you have your supplementary estimates, and the supplementary estimates, they are reviewed once in a while, and you find that one of your sub-votes, or maybe development budget, is more or less removed, or it's not there, it's not funded, and you have your projects going on and all those issues, and you are the chairperson of the commission. How will you resolve that issue? And I want you to see yourself as the chairperson of the commission and leave the accounting officer a little bit down.
Yeah, it would be very sad, because I think what should happen before any other amount is removed from your budget is to find out which are your priority areas. So without that, it would be unfair to simply remove. And because it's coming at the revised stage, I think you can, as the head of the commission, you can still engage the National Treasury.
Engage the National Treasury?
Yes.
What level?
There's a Cabinet Secretary.
Oh, very good. Madam Chair, do you allow me to ask this question to the Honorable Judge? Now, different from finance, about codes, standards, norms and standards, service charter, that what you get in Nairobi is what you get in Nyuki, is what you get in Migori or in somewhere in Kware, in terms of the service that you give to the Kenyans in various stations. How will you ensure that that standard, norms, values that are given to Kenyans across the Republic is more or less uniform? One thing that you do.
Yes, there was a move towards this in standardizing all the operations of the courts, beginning with court buildings, depending on where they are. It's a very good thing, because then the courts are the same, the people serving in those courts are the same. Something we were even thinking of in the Court of Appeal, having accommodation for judges in the 3 courts outside Nairobi. So when a judge goes there 2 years, they have accommodation, they don't start looking around for accommodation. So things remain the same across the country. But having looked at some of the buildings we are doing, talking about standardization, I do not think we have strictly followed that policy. You find huge courtrooms, court buildings in places where they don't deserve to be because the workload doesn't justify. And places where there's a lot of work, you have smaller court buildings. So we have not quite achieved the standards that we wanted to achieve across the country.
Okay. A question that I've more or less engaged the people who have been here before you: devolution and judiciary, delivery of justice and access to justice. Where did you get this position? Where you really place judiciary in terms of our devolution in our 47 counties, in terms of access of justice to Kenyans across the 47 counties? What kind of engagement framework will you have?
The judicial service is not devolved, but the judiciary has deliberately taken steps to go to the people. I know our dream is to have a high court in every sub-county.
Every sub-county?
I think that is the dream. Every sub-county, unless I didn't get it.